difficulties, we couldn't. So thank you for your patience. So today's meeting, we are trying to get the message out to a wider population. That's why, people joining us on Zoom, they are mostly friends from media. A lot of them are from Southern California. Some of them are from Northern California. So we get a lot of write-up after this event and get the message out so people understand why we need to oppose Proposition 16. And if it passes, I hope not, okay, what kind of impact, negative impact to many of us in our community. So, Mr. Huff, are you ready?
No, keep talking.
Okay, I have to say this, okay? I really appreciate Bob's effort. We slept very little last night. I went to bed about 2:30, Mr. Huff about 4:30.
Don't tell him all.
It's okay, it's okay, they're all friends here. But we are determined to help our community. Back in 2014, when we came together to fight against SCA 5, which is the precursor of ACA 5. And January 31st of 2014, SCA 5 passed out of the Senate floor. It was a very sudden maneuver by the other party. So on the Republican side, people were taken aback. They were shocked because they didn't know that it was coming to the floor and being voted on that moment. So Senator Huff, being the minority leader at the time, so he spoke up and voiced his opposition to SCA 5. Situation in 2014 is very different from the situation that we are facing now, because in that year, the other party, they did have the supermajorities, okay? So when it passed, SCA 5 passed out of the assembly, before it got to the Senate, our community, Asian community, mounted a tremendous effort against SCA 5. I mean, we did protests, rallies, and we mobilized the whole community. So the reason for that is because it's, okay, a lot of parents, not just Asian, okay, a lot of parents put their hopes in their next generation, their children, their grandchildren, and they want their children to have the best, the things that they didn't have. So education plays a key factor in our future, in our children's future. So when they understood the impact that it will cause for many, many families, so they came together. It's not just an issue of Asians or Hispanic, it is something that's not a real fair plain level field. So when people understood that, we all came together and we worked harmoniously, okay? And we worked together. We had a very focused effort working together. So we were able to win many seats that year. I think it's a different fight, okay? Because we stop it before it can get to the Senate. So it never became a proposition, became an initiative in that year's ballot, on that year's ballot. So we stopped that, but Bob and I told the community that be alert, be aware, it will come back, because affirmative action is one of the most values from the other party. While the intention may be good, but I think their solution is not perfect, okay? Because we don't think that it's fair for the government to tell us who will be the winners or who will be the losers. Winners will, not have a chance to compete fairly, because it's not a fair system. It's a system based on using race, color of skin, national origin, gender, for instance, as the criteria to allow people to get into public education, to higher learning, and public contracting and public employment. But in 2014, it was only limited to public education. Okay, so that got the parents' attention. This year, the ACA 5 is a lot more comprehensive. It includes not just the public education, but also public employment and public contracting. So the damage to certain people, certain groups, certain races will be very damaging. So because it is not a system based on merits, it doesn't matter how well you did in school, how much effort you put into changing your own future. The government will come in to tell you that you're the loser. It doesn't matter what you put in. So that's why when people understand what it is, they will not side with it. Our daughter is progressive, okay? But once we explain to her the essence of this Proposition 16, she understands affirmative action, and she says she can never support something like that. So I think our job is to get the message out, to educate people. So this is only a start, okay? Because I know many of you, including myself, when I learn something, I always want to study and research on my own and come to my own conclusion. So what I'm doing here, what we are doing here, is not to tell you what to do, okay? Is to give you another perspective, for you to think about things, for you to do your own research and see whether this is something that you think is beneficial to most people. No policies can please everybody, okay? But we meaning Senator Huff and myself and many of our friends, we are always looking for win-win situation. We're looking for the collective good for the community, okay? While we want to take care of everyone, but we just cannot do it. But that is the job of charity, okay? Charity can take care of everybody, people who are in need. So that's why we are here today. So Mr. Huff, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm not getting the display or the PowerPoint, sorry. Just can't do it on the fly. So you want me to say a few things?
Of course.
All right. So an English satirist recently named Andrew Doyle tweeted, "The California Senate has voted to delete this from its constitution. The state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or natural origin." So progressive. Obviously it kind of goes in the other direction. Wall Street Journal in an editorial stated, "We live in strange times, and strange indeed is that while deploring racism, the Democrat legislature in California has voted to codify racial discrimination in state law. Judging individuals by the color of their skin is often antithetical to equal justice under the law. Let's hope Californians hold on to this American principle of equality that goes back to the Declaration of Independence, 14th Amendment, and the Civil Rights Movement." The Journal editors there were talking about hope, but I've been around campaigns long enough. I know Guy has, our mayors have. Hope doesn't cut it. It doesn't win elections. You need a lot more than hope. Although right now in July, we're sitting here with some hope that we'll find some people to help fund this to get the message out to people. I mean, in 1996, when Prop 209 was passed, the language was pretty simple. And we got it right back in the Civil Rights Act of 1965. We got it right in Prop 96 when California tightened its constitution, because you can't end discrimination by discriminating. And that's the fundamental premise here. It's an interesting year, and interesting in the way that it's pretty sad. We have this COVID virus that has changed our whole existence. Businesses are suffering. Cities are suffering because their revenues are plummeting. All government is. And yet at the federal level, we're cranking out more money to try to help keep things afloat. I don't know how long we can do this. But with that, we have the social unrest going on, the riots in the street. And, we feel badly about that. We do. But this is not the solution to that. You can't, it is an emotional battle that they are playing on the other side. But this is not about emotions. When you look at the facts, the admissions rate look at 1996 versus now. Actually, we have a 20-year snapshot. In 1999, African Americans constituted 4,527 of the admissions to the UC system. In 2019, it was 9,317, 106% increase. Latinos or Hispanics, 16,967 in 1999. In 2019 is 55,971, 230% increase. Whites went down 6%, Asians were up 60%. Total enrollment, though, went up 65%. So even Asians lost out by enrollment by 5% at a time when they were growing rapidly in the state population. In fact, the Asian population is the fastest growing demographic in California. And I know you know this in this area because it's here as well. When I was in the state Senate representing the 29th district, my district had the highest API number of any of the 40 Senate districts. And people would be shocked that a white guy is representing an Asian community, but it also, when they redrew the lines back in 2010 or for the 2012 election, they tried to keep communities of interest together. And, you know, maybe I've always been plugged into the Asian community because that is the constituency there. And frankly, I wouldn't be doing this without me. And she is the one that truly led the fight on SCA 5. I was just a spokesperson, you know, and get some steps available for some protests at the Capitol and things. But Meme has been a real champion in fighting this thing. But at the end of the day, if people don't respond to it, then it passes. Okay, we've lived with affirmative action before. We can live with it again. But there will be consequences to the Asian community. They're currently at 35% of admissions to the UC system, with 15% of the native population, meaning out of 100%, 15% are Asian. So even though they're rapidly growing, we're overrepresented. And if you're going to redistribute according to something other than merit, by necessity, Asians will be negatively impacted. So that's the short version. Let me just... Actually, if we could get our videos, we could have some more things covered. I'll tell you what, we'll listen to people talk, and if they haven't covered some of the things I'd like to cover, then I can cover it then. But we need to move on because we're running a little late.
Okay. Then
Thank you for listening to my blathering on. I'll try to work on this while we're...
You know, okay. Next, actually, I'll ask Senator Huff to introduce our Vice Chair from CRP, California Republican Party, Peter Guo, who is in attendance today. Because we don't have another mic set up here, so I will need to ask you to come here.
He can sit in the hot seat there, and we can turn it around again.
Okay. Okay, so maybe you can sit there.
I got to know Peter when I was Senate Republican leader. Peter was running in this impossible district in Silicon Valley. And, you know, it's kind of like, nice guy, bad seat. But, you know, he jumped into the fight on SCA 5. It was a pleasure to get to know him. We had a couple of shots from that era that we were going to put up here. But, you know, I had it all formatted to that one. I don't have permission on that, so I can't share it on Zoom. But nevertheless, Peter has been involved probably before that time, but since that time, he's been very engaged politically. He's run for office unsuccessfully a couple of times, but he is now the vice chair of the California Republican Party. So, Peter, appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you. All right, everybody. It's great to be here today. Again, thank you, Bob and Mei, for having me here today, and many dignitaries. So there are three main reasons I'm opposing to Prop 16. Number one, it's not fair. For a lot of parents who put through their resources and efforts to get good grades at school, this is not fair for the kids who actually have worked hard. Not just Asian kids. I'm saying all kids who have worked really hard for their grades. So again, number one, it's not fair. Number two, it's impossible to enforce. I did a DNA test for myself. I'm 23andMe. I turned out to be 1% African American, if you can believe that. Now, if I were to apply for a job or apply for a school, do I put that 1% African American on my application so that I could qualify for the job that I wanted or the school that I wanted? Again, in such diverse states such as California, Prop 16 is impossible to enforce. Number three, it further divides the community that we already have worked so hard to build in the past 24 years since Prop 209 passes. So I urge everybody, doesn't matter what color, race you are, to vote no on Prop 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, next we'll have Faith Bautista, CEO of National Asian American Coalition.